So this is a public meeting of the Berlin Conservation Commission occurring via Zoom webinar on December 2nd, 2020, starting at 7 p.m. As a preliminary matter, please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other participants may be able to see you. Take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. So confirming member access. This is John A., Chair of the Berlin Conservation Commission. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me prior to me calling the meeting to order. Stating each member's name: Walter Bickford.
Here.
Liz DiChiara.
Here.
Steve Beard.
Harry.
Louise Janda.
Here.
Robin Barry.
Here.
Holly Kennedy DeGrudela.
Here.
Okay. And Carolyn is excused from the meeting today.
Hey, Walter,
And
it looks like
Walter,
you're sharing your screen.
Yeah. So you want to push.
Password. What's the password?
You
don't
should
need a
just
password.
be able to get in through the email that was sent, the link in the email.
No, I'm trying to.
You're already in, Walter.
Yeah, what happened?
You're in and you push screen share,
Yeah,
share screen.
there's a-
So what you want to do is say,
Stop sharing. It's on the top, Walter.
yeah.
Oh, damn. Yeah, I'm gonna sign out and sign back in again. I can't figure this out.
Okay.
Okay.
Where was I?
You did get his credit card number off that, right?
Yeah. Anticipated speakers will include Attorney Alex Pera at 7:30, and then Chris McKenzie and Eric Chance at 8 o'clock. With a quorum of the commission president, I call this meeting to order at 7:06 p.m. on Wednesday, December 2nd, 2020. Introduction to the remote meeting. This open meeting of the Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Berlin website at www.townofberlin.com. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. It is such the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of the public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, provided reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. While no in-person attendance of members of the public is permitted, every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website an audio, video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. The standard public comment portion of this meeting will accommodate limited public comment. For this meeting, the Conservation Commission is convening using the Zoom platform as posted on the agenda, identifying how the public may join. Meeting materials, the public is encouraged to follow along during the meeting with a posted agenda, and I will also screen share other materials. Commission members and speakers on the agenda, please remember to request recognition before speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. Public comment portion of the agenda, to the extent that our technical capability allows, public comment will be permitted during the public comment portion of this meeting as follows. Attendees' phones and other devices will be muted until they raise their hand and are recognized by me to speak. I ask each member of the public who wishes to speak to identify their name, and I will afford each speaker time to ask a question or make a brief comment. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. Done. All right, that was fun. All right, next up, minutes.
We do that again?
No.
Okay.
You should pre-record that, and then you could just play the recording.
Except that people are different every time. I'd have to dub in that stuff, and that would take longer.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'm going to screen share. All right, these are the minutes from November 18th. Meeting opened at 7:16. John opened the meeting by stating that it was being recorded by executive order of Governor Baker, COVID-19, blah, blah, blah. Reviewed rules holding the roll call attendance was taken. John Haney, aye. Walter Bickford, aye. Liz, aye. Louise, aye. Carolyn, co-host, aye. Robin, co-host, aye. And Lee and Leahy opened the meeting and moved it over to Robin. Other attendees, Holly Kennedy DeGrutula, associate non-voting member. Number 1, review and approve minutes of previous meeting minutes of November 4th, 2020 were reviewed and edited. Liz moved to approve the minutes with minor edits. Carolyn seconded the motion, which passed by roll call vote. Everybody saying aye. Treasurer's report, funds, no report was made. Going forward, the treasurer will report the end of the month amounts only once a month. 3, there are no bills and forms. 4, mail notices. Anyway, I'll just do that. Mail notices and forms, COVID permit timeline under the state emergency COVID regulations. No timelines for permits existed, and permits could be delayed indefinitely. Starting in December, though, I think it's December 1st. Permit timelines will be reinstated for all boards and commissions. Didn't really affect us because we never actually, screw that. We never actually fell behind. Wetlands, Highland Ridge, DEP 1070241. Pat Garner reported the previous issues, including replacing the wattles, have been fixed. The last report showed conditions are good. 2, 100 River Road West enforcement order. The Concom has not received an update from the owners. 3, it's 32, isn't it? Yes, 32. Allen Road Wetlands issue. Walter reported that he had mailed an enforcement order to the owners of 32 Allen Road and to the DEP. The Concom is waiting for a response from the owners. Appointments. No appointments or hearings were scheduled. John reported that Alex Perra, attorney for the homes of Highland Ridge, sent an email requesting a meeting delay as they have some issues to work on. They have eliminated drainage easements or modified and are moving forward on the CR agreement. New business, Concom Community Preservation Act representative. Carolyn volunteered to be the Concom representative to the Community Preservation Committee, which administers the CPA fund. Louise moved to appoint Carolyn as a Concom representative. Liz seconded the motion, which passed by unanimous roll call vote. Carolyn abstaining. B, Carolyn reported on how much money the town of Berlin received and how the funds are distributed to the towns. 2, annual budget. John reviewed last year's budget and reported the fiscal year 2020 budget is level funded at $2,000. Let's move that we accept the proposed fiscal year 2022 budget. Robin seconded the motion, which passed with a unanimous roll call vote. Rail Trail. Robin reported on the Zoom meeting with the Hudson Rail Trail Group. She gave an update on the proposed plans for the trail going through Berlin. The Concom discussed possible input on the proposed path of the trail. Walter will write a letter suggesting a change in the route through Berlin. That would better protect the privacy of residents whose properties abut the trail.
But
I know.
question, is it really 2022 budget or 2021? 2022?
22.
Yeah,
I looked it up.
yeah, they just do that to screw with you.
Okay,
8,
Because
old
the
business.
budget ends in 22.
okay.
Yeah. John reported that a virtual meeting was held with Buzz Harris of the Finance Committee. More meetings are planned with the Planning Board and other interested parties. Highland Ridge CR, John suggested asking the Sudbury Valley trustees to act as monitors of the CR in Highland Ridge. John will follow through on the issue. Land acquisition, no action was taken during the regular meeting. Land management, boardwalk on Mountain Laurel Road Trail completed. John displayed pictures of the boardwalk on the Mountain Laurel Trail, which will allow crossing the wet area of the trail. Hey, it's already useful. I was there today, and it successfully brought you over the flood.
Yeah.
Yay. Highland Ridge Trail. John displayed the updated maps of trails at homes at Highland Ridge property. Holly described how the trails were mapped. She will send proposed maps to the owners of Highland Ridge. B, the owners of Highland Ridge have stated they did not want to allow motorized vehicles on the trail. Concom is in agreement. Woodlands conservation restriction. Walter reported on the CR lands in Berlin owned by Woodlands Development. The CR includes public use of the trails. Walter will work with Franny Hodge of the Clinton Greenway Conservation Trust, which owns Rauscher Farms, which abuts the Woodlands project to use the trails. Community outreach, no discussion. Walter moved to adjourn the meeting. Carolyn seconded the motion, which passed by unanimous roll call vote. Meeting ended at 8:37. Minutes recorded by Louise, John, and Johnny. Comments?
Right.
Yes. Walter, You sure that was 32? That
No.
address? No.
No, because I got a letter back from him. It's a wrong person.
Yep, it's
We
36.
walked up that driveway and I thought that was the house.
No, it was
It's 30.
36. Well, when we went up and down there, we decided it was 36.
You know, we never decided. We thought it was, I mailed it to the address that you and I thought it was at. Which was that, 32 or 30?
Okay.
No.
Hey,
I thought
guys,
Yes.
guys, let's get back to this later because it
Yeah,
sounds
right.
like it's going to take a while.
Right.
So anyway, back to what I was doing. Any other thoughts about the minutes?
Yeah, one quick thing on the rail trail. You might want to clarify that I didn't really report on the Zoom call for MassDOT because I wasn't able to sit on it. I think we just talked about the fact that there was one. And then the other thing too that I was thinking about since this last meeting, when we first started talking about this a year and a half ago, there was a reason why we weren't going to include this with the Concom stuff. We have the separate group with the Hudson people, but I don't remember why we said we weren't going to discuss this as part of the Conservation Commission. But there was a specific reason. I think we talked to Mary, and there was a specific reason why we weren't going to include this.
I remember that it was a separate group that reported to us, and on our webpage, it says rail trail.
Well, I
And
think that was before though. That was
Right,
like,
and
wasn't
then
that the original one?
before,
They did
so,
report to us. They did a presentation to us, but they're never under our jurisdiction.
No,
they were
she's right. Yeah,
under us
John,
on the website.
yeah. Before that, there was a committee under us, and then it went to a separate committee outside of the ComCom for some reason, like Robin stating, but I don't know the reason why that was done.
Yeah. And so this first note here under A, the Zoom meeting, actually, I don't even know if it was a Zoom meeting, whatever it was MassDOT, and it wasn't with the Hudson Rail Trail group. But that is the Hudson Rail Trail, the Berlin Hudson Rail Trail group is kind of what we set up to deal with this outside of Conservation Commission.
MassDOT?
Yeah, it's a MassDOT thing. And you might want to just say that, they had the meeting that morning, I think was it that day? I think it was that day they had it earlier in the day. And I know I don't think any of us were able to make it. It was like 10:45 in the morning.
Mhm.
Well, you reported on it though, so.
Okay.
And should we put something about the Hudson group?
No.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, I'd move, good notes. I'd move to approve the notes as amended.
Second.
I don't know if we can do that until we
Maybe.
solve the address.
No. Well, the address that I had listed that we discussed last time was 32. So even if it's wrong, it was wrong last meeting and we'd have to correct it this meeting.
Okay.
That's why I decided it would be better to talk about it afterwards.
Okay.
Walter, is it accurate that the Woodlands owns the property that the CR is on in Berlin?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to double check. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as
So moved.
edited. Is there a second?
Second,
No
Third.
further discussion, so roll call vote. John, I, Liz,
aye.
Louise,
Aye.
Robin,
Aye.
Steve,
I.e.
Walter.
Aye.
Cool. All right. 7:20.
Turn video off.
Oh, treasurer's report. Do you have anything?
So for the end of, figure November 30th, I think because we were going to do an end of month thing.
Yeah.
Let's see this. This is
For the wetlands, it's unchanged at $10,912.83.
Can you repeat that?
Sure. It's $10,912.83.
Okay, thanks.
And then for open space, It's $186,500.77. And then for the budget, it is $866.04. And that's through November 30th.
Thank you.
Right.
Also, Robin, just so you know, the budget I presented to you guys, I made an error. In the old column, I was supposed to put what we actually spent, not what I had wanted to spend.
Oh.
So June pointed that out to me. I corrected it. I submitted it, and I haven't heard anything back. So I presume I got it right the second time around. I have a copy of it. Next year, we'll worry about it once COVID zombies are done.
Yeah. Well, I saw that you also had added on this meeting's notes that we have $434 in the MACC.
No. Let me get to that quickly.
Okay.
So bills and forms, there were no bills, which is good. Mail-in notices. So MACC sent a report up that for next year, there will not be an increase in the dues.
Oh, okay. All right. That's good to know. Because I was going to say we'd have like $400 after that.
Right. No, so that won't be due till July.
Okay, good.
It's the next year. And, it's a $434 plus the handbook fee. They'll probably double the cost of the handbook fee.
Probably.
But, so that's just that, but that's for the next budget. It's not for this budget.
Gotcha. Okay.
So what'd you say? KP Law's late in sending us a bill?
Well, what I
No
said
bills?
last week.
No.
Yeah. I mean, so we'll have to deal with this come May or June, which will largely depend on what happens with land over the next few months. So, but, they sent bills after July 1st for work that was done before July 1st. And that should have been encumbered. And I didn't think to ask them.
Yeah, come March, we should kind of develop a list of who we're expecting bills from over that last 2 or 3 months of the fiscal year and put some pressure on to get the bills quickly. Or
just an estimate at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but frankly, I didn't even know what encumbrance was last. Sorry. It's not 7:30 yet. Moving right along, Wetlands, Highland Ridge, the ongoing monitoring by Patrick Gardner. His last report, everything looks good. Everything looks good. I can share it with you if you'd like, but he went out after that 1.33 inches of rain on November 23rd. Erosion controls were stable and intact, site well maintained. He pointed out some area that needed some more hydroseeding, but he was quite content with how things looked. So that was good. Okay, minimize that. Next, 100 River Road. I have not received any paperwork. I've not received anything about a NOI. Now they were due now, weren't they?
Yes. They skipped before and they skipped again. I think we should call DEP and have them attach some fines to this.
Well, I will send an email to DEP.
Judith.
Yeah. And also I'll drop an email to Dave Burke. Because there had been a flurry of emails involved that Dave Burke sort of CC'd me on a few weeks back, or several weeks back, or whatever, when things seem to start happening, but then it's gone quiet again. So I'll try to get a sense of where things are at from him, and also alert duty. And then, okay, so it isn't
Oh,
32 Allen Road?
Excuse me a minute, John.
Yeah,
Can you hear me? I can't
I
Yes.
can.
see my picture on there. I don't know how to get it on. Not that that's important. Can you hear me though? That's the important thing.
Yep,
I can hear you.
loud
Yeah.
and clear.
They
Can,
want the picture and not the voice.
right. I'm wondering if that 100 River Road might have a serious violation of illegally disposing of rubbish in addition to the wetlands aspect of it.
Mhm.
So maybe when you send a note to our agent, you might just mention that. Is there a, maybe it's a local bylaw, I don't know. In addition to that, I wonder if earth removal would know.
Earth removal isn't rubbish.
I saw, didn't we see a couch or something though down there? Remember there was, oh,
Oh.
there you go, Walter. Now we can see you.
Lucky you.
What about Board of Health? Would they be involved?
I don't know. I was just wondering, maybe I shouldn't have even thrown the idea out there, but it's illegal wetlands, but it's also, you can't just bury trash. I mean, you know, anybody that does a house lot in Berlin, they have to haul the stumps over to Slades to get them crushed up and hire people to chip the brush. And there's some kind of law there. Maybe, maybe if you ask Margaret about it, John, or Mary.
Well, what kind of rubbish is there?
Well, it's debris from land clearing, landscaping, brush, stumps. That's what, just a lot of brush and stumps.
Okay.
Was
All
there
right,
a couch down the bank or am I
Yeah, there
dreaming that?
was. There's a chair, a couch, or something down there. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I want to share a screen for a sec here.
And just so you know, Alex Para and Steve Vinicasa is waiting in the waiting room.
Yeah, yeah, okay, thank you. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
So is this the area where the wetland violation is?
Oh, Steve, was it the last house on the right or the next to last house on the right?
It was, let's see now. I've got to come for this move. Where's Rue's garage?
It isn't number 15.
Is this,
The guy, well, excuse me.
15 is 32, according to this thing.
Yeah. No, I thought it was 36, and I thought we saw that in the
The
mailbox.
36 doesn't go to West Street.
Right.
Okay, so now I'm wrong too.
I received an email from Mr. Murphy, who I sent the enforcement order to, and he thanked me profusely for putting a cover letter with it, so that he said if the cover letter wasn't there, they'd have been totally alarmed at the verbiage in that enforcement order. But it wasn't him. He doesn't even own, he claims he doesn't own land on West Street. He just, his frontage is on Allen Road. So it wasn't him. And I sent it. You know,
Well, Walter, do you and Steve want to follow up with the assessors to figure out who owns the property?
yeah,
Maybe you could go down there and with a watch and get a GIS a phone and get a GIS setting.
there's
And then
not-
you can match it up with, if you give me the exact coordinates, I can find out Oliver where it is or where this thing.
yeah, okay.
Because, okay.
Yep.
You two follow up with the assessors on that?
Yep.
Mhm.
All right, great. All right, so we'll proceed with our, why don't we'll prepare for our 7:30 meeting. Liz, could you please promote Attorney Para and Mr. Vinicasa?
Sure. Do you want me to promote them to panelists or to allow them to talk? Those are my choices. Promote to panelist, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we usually do.
Okay, thanks.
How do I get promoted?
You're lucky to even be.
Oh, gee, Merry Christmas to you too.
And I'm going to ask them to unmute. Good.
We all set? Can you hear me?
Yes,
We can
and,
hear
and
you
see you.
and see you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. A couple of days ago, I forwarded to you a revised conservation draft of the conservation restriction. And perhaps best thing would be to talk a little bit about, before getting to those changes, to talk a little bit about the public access provisions. I think I told you when we met a couple of months ago that I was working off of a draft of the conservation restriction, which had been represented to me as being more or less agreed upon by the commission. That not being the case, you know, I took a look again at the public access provisions of the conservation restriction, which we didn't discuss much last time, but I don't believe those will pass muster with the Commonwealth, and they will want a grant of an easement for public access over the trails. We're fine with that, and you know, willing to make the change and put in the standard language that the Commonwealth uses for public access easement. In terms of actually relocating the trails, and I appreciate the map that was sent over, I think that would be best accomplished, you know, on the ground in person with, you know, representative developer and yourselves to, you know, relocate the trails. The conservation restriction is presently drafted does reserve the right with the approval of the Conservation Commission to relocate trails. So I think in terms of the draft, that portion of the restriction is fine. There is some introductory language which probably should be changed to say not just the existing paths, but also as may be relocated in the future. So with that said, the things that we more specifically discussed last time around were with respect to the reserved rights for the wells, drainage, and septic calculations. And I provided a revised revision. It's the reserved rights is paragraph B, and all of this falls under the number 9. It was one long continuous paragraph. I broke it up into separate paragraphs dealing first with the wells, then drainage, and then septic. And so with respect to the wells, the language that was in the conservation restriction before basically, you know, reserved the right over the entire conservation area to install wells and have the zone 1 wellhead protection area. We would like to maintain that as a possibility, but I've added language that says in the first instance it will be, you know, where they are presently located. I did speak with the engineer who's responsible for, you know, the design of the public water supply, and his concern about just restricting it to the specified area where the existing wells are is that he's had experience in the past of a well failing, and then you know, there's been tremendous problems because conservation restriction has prevented the relocation of the water supply wells. So what I've said in there is essentially, we're going to start where we are. And then if for some reason there's a well failure in the future, we would work with the Conservation Commission to relocate in a manner that, protects the conservation values of the property as much as possible. So
That seems reasonable.
that was my first change. On the drainage, I know that too was basically across the entire parcel B. We're comfortable restricting that to the area that we've shown as a proposed drainage easement, and I forwarded
Yeah, I had difficulty with that map. Let me see if I can share that. You can you see that?
It's no, I don't see the map yet. You have to really zoom in.
Yeah.
You don't see that?
No, we're still seeing your
No.
text. You're still seeing a text document.
All right, let me try this then.
Now we see you.
Thanks. How's that?
There we
it
go.
is.
okay, yeah.
So where are you talking about? I know I'm the one with a pointer,
So
but
if you're heading from the development parcel onto parcel B on that,
This way?
what's shown as a dirt road, and then you take the right-hand turn there.
right
Mhm.
here.
Okay, so that's an access road, and what it shows is the grading for a proposed detention basin. So to the right of the roadway is the detention basin. To the left is the grading out for the detention basin. And so on Exhibit B to the conservation restriction, we had included that area as a proposed drainage easement. And this plan shows basically the detail for what drainage structures would be constructed within the parcel B and where they would be located and how they would be built.
Okay,
And
so
what the revision does is to limit the use of parcel B for drainage to that area.
okay, let me get back
What was the
to,
date on the plan that you just showed?
That's from the special permit plan, which
I sent it to you.
Yeah, it's in an email.
attachment.
Yeah, it's in an
Okay.
email.
So anyway, back to the drainage.
Could I go back to the extent feasible? There's Exhibit B as quote zone 1 wellhead easement area. I wasn't sure where those quotes end.
the quote should end right after wellhead easement.
Okay. You see that, John?
Like that?
No,
Or after area?
No,
Go
the
up 2 lines.
earlier easement,
go up 2 lines. There we go.
wellhead
Yeah.
easement.
After area or after easement?
I believe it's after easement.
There we go.
Thank
Of course,
you.
the colors clash rather terribly, but.
Yeah.
It'll all
Okay.
come out in the wash, I think.
Yeah.
So,
So right there at the beginning of the paragraph on drainage, I just said limiting it, but to say within the area shown as proposed drainage easement. On
Yeah.
Exhibit B.
I guess my only concern with that map is, that map copy is fuzzy, and if there's just some way of highlighting that so it's very clear what we're talking about, that would be cool.
Sure. So when the conservation restriction gets recorded, the Commonwealth typically requires the recording of a full-size plan showing all of these details. So yeah, we can get you a better copy for now, but when it gets recorded, there's going to be a way better copy.
Okay.
Can we highlight it somehow?
Yeah, yes, for sure.
Great.
All right, thanks. Cool. And then septic?
So on septic, I think your concern was exactly what that meant. And so I've added the clause that says, you know, nothing shall be deemed to permit the construction or installation of any part of the septic system. Basically, these are just area calculations. And, you know, it's not uncommon, for example, in a conservation restriction to say, well, the area of the conservation restriction can't be used to count for, you know, density requirements or things like that. This is kind of similar to that, except for in reverse. What it's saying is that you can use the area of the conservation parcel to satisfy the calculations that are required for septic loading, which is, you know, is 10,000 square feet of area per 110 gallons of design flow. Now, the development parcel, in fact, complies with that for the design septic system, but I left this in because not only does your order of conditions require it, but also the special permit requires it. I don't want to have to go back for a modification of the special permit, but it is clear now that it does not permit, you know, anybody to construct a, you know, a septic system on the conservation parcel.
Yeah, I like the change of language. That was
Yep.
pretty helpful.
I agree.
So, you know, those were the changes that I made. As I said, I think in, you know, Article 4, the access provision that was in the draft that I started with, I don't think that's going to pass muster with the Commonwealth. So I'm just going to go ahead and put in a public access easement in, you know, standard language, and not have to fuss with the Commonwealth about that. I assume you folks
Yeah, that's fine.
would be okay with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
John, I just want to double check. Eric Jansen is in the waiting room. He's got a later appointment, right?
That is correct, 8 o'clock.
Okay. Thanks.
I have a question for people about the trails. Let me just try to stop sharing this for a sec and share something else. Forgive me, I just have to do so many. Huh, what did I do with that silly thing? Okay, thanks for your patience. So this is the map that I think Holly sent to you. So, you know, about the, you know, trails. I mean, this area had a bunch of trails going through it beforehand. This trail here is, for this part, mostly intact. You know, the road bisects it. There's some degradation of the land here, or construction, or tearing up things, and then it starts up again over here. This is on parcel B. This trail is a little different. This is actually, there was a fair amount of disturbance where this had been. There's some trails that go up here. There had been a trail that went down this way. This part also crosses the wetlands, and then of course that it, you know, it can't possibly, you know, either, you know, so the question is what to do about this. I mean, one option is to bring it all the way up into parcel C, which is not on the conservation restriction, so it can go on that road, or bring it down all the way around here, or just figure because of the wetlands crossing, it's best just to pull this thing to here so that there's just a one-way trail through here. I mean, it's nice to having, it would be nice, I would imagine, for the residents to have a place to walk around. But, you know, this part of the trail is potentially more problematic. I wondered what people's thoughts were.
I just asked Holly to unmute if she wants to.
Yeah,
Hi.
the bottom trail, that one, where that goes, that's private land. So really, there isn't much buffer from the development to Duncan's land to go to connect it to make it a circle, unless, you know, Duncan said it's okay for that to happen. Personally, we do that, but I don't, you know, that's something that's private. But the trail above, really the only new piece we had to make to get through that wetlands, and we picked the highest ground possible, and it's not, you know, it's not so bad. It's just kind of in that darker area, which would be kind of new. The rest of it is pretty much was existing.
Okay. I mean, this can be dealt with a boardwalk. But what is your thoughts about whether to route it to the other side of the detention basin or to the uphill of the detention basin? Because you can't go through the detention basin.
Right. No, the way that you have it, that trail is, that part has always been there. It's there.
Okay.
Connected to it. And then it goes down, and then that was when it goes to Carter Street.
Right, Carter Street's right here.
Yeah, kind of.
The area to the, to the west of the detention basin looks very steep. I know you were interested in equestrian activity around there. Is that ledgy and steep, or is it all right to?
You're right, Walter, that the lines would indicate that would be quite a descent.
Yeah, I think that's the pretty much what we have there. That's something the trail has been there and that we've used. That's kind of one of our favorite trails, the one that's there now. So, but if you needed it reroute, I'm sure we could figure something out. But the way that is, it doesn't seem to interfere with anything that we saw when mapping it out.
So, thank you. Two things. I mean, certainly I agree with Attorney Para that we'll have to sort of get on site and take a look at some of the options here. And some of that may be delayed till all the site work, you know, the preliminary site work is completed. However, with respect to the conservation restriction, I'm going to stop sharing this. I'm going to share this.
But all those trails that we did, you can't, we pretty much stayed away from the development part. Those trails, right now, yeah, you can see where they're developing, but we kind of really stayed away from that area.
Great. So anyway, Attorney Para.
If I could just, before you move on, just very briefly, just make a comment is, I have not looked into it, but I would make the caveat that it may not be permissible to have the trails within the Zone 1 wellhead protection. I don't know the answer to that.
That's a good point. Yeah,
we should bear that in mind.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
You mean the trails that are already there? Or?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
there may not be any allowance. I don't know. Someone else can try to sort it out, but it may there may be it may not be it may be prohibited to allow trails in a Zone 1 area, but I have no idea.
That's because those trails are pretty they're pretty established.
Right, but the wells are new.
That it doesn't matter if they're established. I mean, it matters if they're established, but it would be trumped by the wellhead.
Right. No, I get it. And that, actually, I think I know what you're talking about. And they don't go near that. From what I recollect, we're talking where they are on that parcel.
No, that map shows them going right through it.
Well, then, maybe that's not completely accurate
I
then.
don't think a trail would violate a wellhead protection zone.
See-
Well, somebody could research it. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I'll undertake to do that.
Thank you, Attorney Para.
I just, I just wanted everybody to have that in the back of their heads in case. Especially with
Thank you.
Retention basin built as we talked. Is it there existing?
No,
No,
no, it's not.
Oh, okay.
And
Maybe-
if I could say something about the trail system, I actually did explore that whole trail system before we started construction there. And I agree with you, Holly, it is established. And I appreciate keeping the trails away from the future homes in there. And I think that's for everyone's interest. I don't think people enjoy walking next to someone's home, nor does someone in the home enjoy something right in their backyard. And I think you've done a good job of separating those trails. And I agree with Attorney Parras that may be easier to do and it might be more accurate if we do that in the field and the way the weather is now. I think it might be best to do that in the spring, I would think. But I'm amenable to it. I do think the trails are a good asset to the development and to the town and the neighborhood. So we're in favor of the trail system.
That's great. Yeah, no, I mean, we just need to make sure all the grading is done first before we, that kind of stuff. All the ground disturbance is done. It
Yeah,
doesn't
but
really matter if it's cold, or I mean, it's actually easier when the leaves are down. But at any rate, Attorney Para, under one purposes, public access, it would be parcels B and D.
yes.
Okay. Fine point, but.
And also existing and relocated.
Right. So if you could add all that in, that would be awesome.
Mhm.
All right. And then I have sort of a legal question. I have a question for a lawyer. So under A, prohibited acts and uses, on above and below the premises is defined above as essentially the areas that are, parcels B and D. So under 3, it says, and other vegetation cuttings generated off-site. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear enough that the off-site meant off-site from the premises, specifically parcels B and D, and not off-site from anywhere in the property. Essentially what I'm getting at is 2 years from now, the landscapers come in, they cut a bunch of stuff, and they dump it on the conservation restriction land. I don't want that, and I want to make sure this clearly reflects that cannot happen. That's. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So would it say generated on or off-site?
That is,
No.
right now, the language he's got there is what the state uses. I'm actually
Right.
going through
Right,
the
right.
same thing. I'm going through the same thing on the land I'm purchasing with a conservation restriction, and that's standard language he has right there.
Yes, I agree. But usually when you have a conservation restriction, you don't have like two parcels surrounding another parcel.
Yeah, I see what you're getting at, and we
Yep.
can change that to off premises, or we can change that to off-site including parcel C, or some such language. I'll clean that up.
Thank you.
Yeah, there should be no disposal of landscaping refuse or any of that on a CR land.
Right. No, I mean, I think that's generally accepted. It's just the language is weird, given that
Right.
there's a,
Right.
that the conservation restriction land sandwiches the development. And then the 2B, number 1, again, this is probably boilerplate stuff, but it says condition of the premises including vistas as documented in the baseline report. I looked at, I scanned the baseline report. I didn't see any evidence of vistas. The only thing, but it is on the top of the hill, and it occurred to me, well, I don't want them cutting down a bunch of trees so somebody in a townhouse 5 years from now wants to look out over some valley somewhere. If there's no vistas in the baseline report, can we just strike vistas?
Yep.
All right. And then number 6, again, we're still working on the trails because there's still no thing in the baseline report about the trails. And then the drainage easement we already talked about. So yeah, that's all I had. Any other thoughts or concerns?
No, you caught most of the ones I was looking at. On the map, I had a question, but it was more for information. But we'll go back to that later. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's simple. Going down to the 2 well heads, I saw a 2-inch PVC pipe. Is there underground wires there too? For power for the wells, or is that overhead?
No, it'll be underground power.
So that'll be in the road section.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I'm good.
Good. Well, Attorney Para, thank you very much. This is good progress.
And you got all the action items.
Appreciate it. So if I make these revisions that we discussed tonight and forward to you, if assuming everything is okay at that point, how do you want to work it? Get town council involved, or how do you want to go forward?
Yeah, well, send it over. I'll send it out. What we can do is just if it's within a 2-week time frame, we can, just meet again at 7:30 in 2 weeks. Sort of see if there's any other issues, and then we can pass it on.
Okay, very good.
I mean, there's some stuff that's going to get it'll still be a little vague because of the trail thing, but maybe if you put enough flexible language in there, that would work. And there's still no mention there's nothing in the baseline report about trails. So even if there was sort of a rough outline of where the trails would be, and that there's actually 2 separate trails that sort of come close to linking up on the southern end.
Okay. Will do.
All right, Greg, that's great.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Good night.
Thank
All
you.
right. Have a good evening.
You too.
So now I put them back to attendee, right?
Yep.
And you promote me.
No, we
King of
might
the world.
feed you.
I try. I'm trying.
We might feed you. It
Ugh.
won't be
And-
tasty though.
I'm going to allow in Chris
Yeah.
McKenzie
Yeah.
and Eric. Okay.
Okay, just for clarification, who is Stephen Venencasa?
He's a developer. He owns the property. He or his outfit bought it from Slade. All right. Oh, let me get organized here. Bigger. Okay, so we'll start with a public hearing for the RDA for 149 Sawyer Hill Road. I did receive this, it's not a, I'm sorry, the public meeting. It's not a public hearing, it's a public meeting. It was posted. I received evidence that it was posted in the newspaper. Thanks to Chris McKenzie. Okay, well, take it away, Chris.
Good evening, everyone. Chris McKenzie from Dillis and Roy here. As you know, we submitted an RDA for this site. It's located at the end of a common drive off of Sawyer Hill Road. This existing turnaround area is basically the end of the common drive at this point. There is the potential for a driveway to come over to the abutting lot 4 over here. There's an easement for that.
Here, I'm gonna wait a minute.
Pull it up.
Yeah, I suppose I should share my screen, huh?
Yeah, well, I could share it if you'd like, but you could share it if you want to.
I'd rather do that, John, and that way I can point things out easier on the screen.
All right, fire away. Yep.
There, how's that?
Got it.
Got it.
All right. So again, I'm sorry about that. So I'll start over. This property is located at the end of a common driveway located off of Sawyer Hill Road. This existing turnaround here is basically the end of the common driveway at this point. We're proposing a driveway to come up to a house located up here. The system that we're proposing is located down here. There's a wetland down beyond the drainage basin that was installed as part of the common drive construction. And the wetland is located down below that. So we show the 100-foot buffer here. The system's located outside of the 100-foot buffer. However, some of the grading required to meet the Title V requirements it's gonna spill down into the buffer zone here. So we're proposing an erosion control barrier around the system here. I believe the current detail located here just shows a straw wattle. Discussed at the site walk, we opted to allow for wattles and silt fence barrier to be installed. So I'll update that detail and get a revised plan over to you guys. But either way, it's still going to be located in the same location as we showed here to protect any runoff from getting down. More so really into the basin. It's never really going to get to the wetlands. It's actually going to end up in the basin, any runoff from there. So we're protecting the basin really from any runoff, which eventually does go to the wetland. And so that really covers it. There really isn't a whole heck of a lot of work being proposed in the buffer zone.
Yes, so at the site, Louise and I were at the site walk. The work is right above the basin and berm. So this is really mostly about protecting runoff that would go into this stormwater management structure, which is, and the berm looks good, that all the growth is, it looks intact, the vegetation is grown up. So there isn't a direct route to the wetlands. It has to go through the stormwater management plan, but you don't want that to clog up either.
Right.
So this seemed like a pretty straightforward type of project that could be considered as an RDA as opposed to an NOI. Any other thoughts or questions? You guys just aren't getting all worked up about this, are you?
No, it's a pretty good slope there, but
it didn't feel that bad, frankly. No.
Because I'm seeing 10 feet and whatever that distance is, 384 down to 374.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, some of it felt like the basin. It didn't really. It felt. Don't you agree, Louise? It seemed flatter than that.
Well, you might be comparing existing grading to proposed grading. I think what he's looking at the 384 down to the 374. That's the proposed grading, not what's on the ground existing. On the ground existing, it's relatively flat, steady slope. This is going to be fairly steep. It's a 3-to-1, which is the the maximum slope that Title V allows us to use, but it keeps the grading the furthest away
Right.
from the wetland.
Right, thank you.
Common, it's all over, there's places like that all over town, systems put in 3-to-1 is always the slope they use.
Mhm. Okay, that's my only concern at the moment.
Any other thoughts?
Nope.
Uh, And you're okay with the existing, the reserve trenches? They're all outside the 100-foot, so okay. Am I right? No, wait, the 100-foot. No, yeah,
Yes, they are.
Yep.
Again, if that ever got built, there would also have to be some work in the buffer zone
Right.
for the fill. That won't be being constructed at this time.
right, right.
Any other thoughts?
Oh,
No.
I'm okay.
All right. So essentially what we'd be just proposing here is, well, first, there's 2 points of discussion. Does everyone agree that an RDA, so this is an RDA. Does everyone agree that we don't have to worry about it? Well, actually, I can just simplify this. So the question is, do we have a positive determination or a negative determination? A negative determination means that the RDA is adequate. We're not requiring an NOI. And the specific language would be that, the work described is in the request is within the buffer zone, but will not alter an area subject to protection under the act, that is the wetlands. Therefore, said work does not require the filing of a notice of intent, subject to the following conditions, which would be just the installation of some erosion control barriers. So that would be the negative determination that we would make. Does that sound reasonable to people?
Does to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the straw wattles and the barrier, the silt fence.
Right, yeah.
Okay. With that, I am, yeah.
All right, so again, that's the meeting, not a hearing, so don't really actually even need to close it. So I guess I would entertain a motion to issue a negative determination on this RDA.
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
second? Okay.
Yep.
Is there
Second.
any other discussion?
Who seconded?
Robin,
All right. So roll call vote. Liz,
aye.
John, aye. Louise,
Aye.
yes. Robin,
Aye.
Walter,
Aye.
Steve.
I.e.
Okay, passes unanimously. Great. So, Chris and Eric, what happens next in the time of COVID is that I get this thing filled out, that I drive it around to people's houses that aren't currently infected by COVID and get it signed. And then then I'll get it mailed out. Or Liz does the mailing for me. But
But I'm away.
oh, I do the mailing. Lovely. It's fine. I will have the time. So
What's their time frame? Are they gonna get started right away?
We need to, yes. Yeah, I can't wait no, that's not the issue. The issue is the RDA has to be turned around in not too long, distant order. It's 21 days, but this was an agreed extension, so I don't know. But anyway, I want to get it done as soon as possible. I don't like to tarry.
Okay.
So Chris, the only thing I would ask is, please, I want to see the new site plan with the wattles and the silt fence, and the silt fence towed in somehow. Okay.
Right.
So I see that, I mail it out. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
That'll be the deal. I want to see that though.
Right. Yeah. COVID thing, of course, causes delays on my end. I'll have the plan fixed up tomorrow, but it usually takes me a couple of days to get to the point where I can mail hard copies back out to you. So, but I will get that right over to you.
Well, even if you just email it to me, that would be good.
I can have that for you probably tomorrow or Friday.
Right. And then just mail it out. I won't be able to gather signatures till this weekend because
Okay.
I'm too busy at work the next 2 days. So,
And if you were to leave, if you could leave it in some sort of a waterproof envelope out on your front deck there, Liz and I are close enough. We just stopped
no,
by.
Liz is in Florida.
Liz, are you in Florida? Well,
I am in Florida.
you're gonna be busy, John, this weekend.
Mm.
Oh,
I could swing by too, John, too, if you wanted to leave it out.
all right, good. I like this
With
plan.
honey?
No,
Just really
you guys,
honey out.
who needs more honey?
I could use more honey.
Okay, all right.
You could use it as a paperweight to weight it down so it doesn't blow away.
Okay, all right. So, all right, good. But I do want, yes, so I'll leave it out there. I'll try to get it done ASAP, okay?
Where are you leaving it?
Front porch, on the table, weighted down by honey.
Okay. Could you
Take
leave
just one.
the envelope
What?
in the lobby of the town offices?
No,
No,
then I
town
have to
office.
go there. This is supposed to be easy for me.
Oh, okay.
This is all about me, Louise.
Yeah. I heard that this morning from somebody else. I'm going to make it part of my attitude.
No, please
There you
don't.
go, Louise.
No, please don't, Louise. Okay, all right, so we're good to go. Chris and Eric, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, see you guys around.
All right, take care.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Well, we're moving right along here.
Yeah. That was good.
Meeting adjourned?
No.
Becca,
Okay. Well, I think I'd go for it.
Okay, next, we have a new business item. So I got an email from a wetlands person who was contracted by the National Grid regarding some pole installation. And the question is, is this a utility exemption or not? Would a letter be sufficient or they have to do an RDA? So I had a phone call with her. She was very nice. Of course, she's not the utility company.
Where are we talking?
Bridge Road.
Okay.
So Bridge Road is that little shortcut between River Road and the mall, Donald Lynch Boulevard.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
near
if you live on,
Target.
yeah, it's the back. If I want to go to Target, the back way, that's where I go.
Mm-hmm.
And the Alphabet passes. Oops. Why not? Oh no. I had all these pictures, but
we all know it pretty well anyway.
all right. Well, sugar. It's just disappointing to me because I loaded up these pictures, but Adobe Acrobat's being a stinker. So at any rate, two of the. Let me try this instead.
Yeah. You just.
Oh, good. Yeah, this will work. Share screen. Boom. Okay. You guys can see that?
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. So two of the poles go right about here. Okay. It's quite steep right here. And there is a bit of some land between where the poles will go and the Aspet River. And then there's a pole up here and a pole up here. This, surprisingly, is town land. It's, Walter, do you know about, this is like
It's conservation land. It was given to us by the Kelsey Foundation years ago.
Yeah, it's Kelsey something land. Yeah. I was a little surprised by that. But anyway, so this is private property. So the bridge is the pole. Now, so stop share, check on something. So as far as minor activity exemptions to the Wetlands Protection Act, this includes the the installation of directly embedded utility poles and associated materials in certain specified areas. So, and generally speaking, there's a lot of utility exemptions. The only question is that, it being so close to the river there, whether, the drilling debris would flow into the river or not. It might not actually, because it's not right on the edge. It would, but it might. It really, I guess it would really depend on how much of a mess they made. So, what are people's thoughts? Should I expect them to put up some erosion control barriers, or just to have this be utility exemption? What are your thoughts?
They could still put up
I would
erosion
get them,
control.
but they install poles. They know what they're doing. They have loggers, and I don't see it as a threat to the river. Frankly, it's not a big deal.
Okay.
That's
I don't
Robin,
think straw wattles or anything would be unreasonable, though. I mean,
Yeah.
I agree, it's not a huge deal, but I don't think it's unreasonable to ask them to put some wattles there,
Right.
or some sort of erosion control.
A lot of
Even
stuff
just-
stuff's being outsourced today, so it may not be them putting it in.
Okay. All right. I'll talk with her and let her know that we want some wattles in. It is, like I said, it is very, it steeply descends from the road there. It's very steep, then it flattens out, and then there's the river, which is really quite wide there. I was sort of surprised by how wide the river is there. The other thing, Louise, we can't forget Bridge Road for the Earth Cleanup Day in the spring.
Right. Oh, that's always a mess. But actually,
Oh.
they're supposed to do some of that. Actually, Target or one of those places is supposed to actually keep that clean. We've talked to them before. Never works, but
Yeah, no, there were an enormous amount of cans and bottles on
Okay,
there.
I'll put that down for next April.
Yeah, it was bad.
and don't give that to one person. Give it to a group.
Right.
No,
Well,
just give it to Steve. We'll feed him if he cleans it up.
Oh yeah.
Do that.
Yeah, it's bad. There was even a little bit of insulation there.
It's a dump site.
It's a dump site. It was
Yeah, they
upsetting.
roll it off over the edge. It's tough pulling all that stuff back up, especially the tires and the washing machines.
I didn't see any of that. The tires of the washing machines the tires is what I got off of Sawyer Hill Road North the last 2 years. I didn't have that road this year, but I know I didn't see any tires of washing machines, but just tons and tons of cans and bottles and a little bit of insulation. All right, so I'll be in contact with her. That was good. All right, next up, old business. Highland Ridge CR SVT as CM. I got to talk to my friends. SVT.
Is that a question?
No, I was just talking to myself, Walter.
Question
So
or a proposal or?
So Walter, 1 or 2 meetings ago, you said that we should get SVT involved to be like the conservation monitor. So I did ask them.
Okay.
And I sent over that first draft of the conservation restriction, and then I had some back and forth with Kristen O'Brien. And then last meeting we had that perplexed discussion about how this stuff gets paid for. Then Carolyn said that there had been money put aside when the Wedler purchased to get that done. At any rate, so Kristen, oh boy. Here we go. Let me screen share. There we go. So this is the monitoring agreement. Blah, blah, blah. There's services, compensation, independent. It works as an independent contractor. This agreement's renewed every few years.
Dude, yeah, they want a fee for this, right?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Yuck.
It's not bad.
Is it above zero?
Yes.
Then I'm not in favor.
Well, the thing is, blah, blah, blah. So, so it's basically, between $100 and $150, somewhere in that range per year, which frankly, given that we don't have a conservation agent, you know, and we have a lot of these properties and they're already monitoring multiple properties around town, it seemed to make sense to me.
But we're not paying for them.
Well, we might be though. I think it might have been constructed differently. I think according to Carolyn, we prepaid on Wendler.
Okay, because I know we've had this before. We've had multiple discussions this, and Walter and I have voted, and others have voted this down quickly.
We did pay them a few years ago, and I think it wasn't just for one property. It was just kind of an accumulation.
Under an agreement or what?
That $1,300 thing?
Yeah, 15. It was either 13 or $1,500, I think. Well, Ashley is the one who brought it up at one point.
She was squeezing us for cash. So
Was
yeah,
that
so we
for
have
monitoring or was that for?
for monitoring. Yeah.
She's brought up this agreement before, and I've always thought we voted it down.
Well,
Yeah, no, we did pay them an amount of money back a little while ago,
Okay, I don't recall that.
years ago.
Or I missed
I
it.
do, but I forget what it was for.
I thought it was for monitoring.
my feeling is this isn't a lot of money, frankly. I think it's an important service, particularly given that there's going to be a large community sandwiched between these two conservation lands, and you know, it is worth having someone to keep an eye on the properties. And then thirdly, you know, we have a pretty good relationship with SVT. They do a lot of free stuff for us all the time anyway. I mean, Dan has been out several times to help me with stuff around Wendler.
They get a lot of funding through us, so I'm okay. Go ahead.
It seems like an important thing at a reasonable cost. That was my opinion.
I do disagree, but go ahead.
Yeah.
So
Well, what are other people's?
where would this money come from? Do we need to change our
General
budget?
fund. No, we wouldn't even be paying for it this year.
Wouldn't
I
it
mean-
come under open space?
I think so.
Why couldn't it come under general budget? Of course, I keep screwing this up. I'll make that Robin's problem. Robin, that's your problem.
I would say not general budget because we don't have any money in there really. And even at top $2,000, we wouldn't have really have enough to cover it.
You know, it's
So-
related to land conservation that I would take it out of the open space.
Yeah, I agree, Walter.
Or, I'm sorry.
I think that's where we took it out of before.
But so what exactly would they be monitoring?
Basically, stuff like the things that we're worried about, like in the discussion earlier, that people were dumping stuff, like the landscapers were dumping stuff on the property, or that there had been stormwater runoff that was degrading some of the land, or there had been some vandalism, or that there had been an overgrowth of oriental bittersweet that was threatening the ecosystem.
So would they just be letting us know about it, or would they actually be doing anything about it? Because I kind of feel like
they'd be letting us know. Yeah, but that's important.
But I
But
think a
Holly,
lot of people kind of let us know, though.
Yes, I think so. Holly rides these weekly.
I can give you an example of something that they caught. There was somebody who had infringed on conservation land, and I forget exactly what it was, but the swimming pool had gone on.
This is right in the center of town.
Right, and they're
Yeah,
the ones who
took
caught
care
it,
of
and
it.
they notified us about it. And we probably would not have caught it if they hadn't.
But we didn't do anything about it anyway, so.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we did, but really, yeah,
We talked about it.
right.
That's about it.
Well, we came to an agreement that when they would make changes if the land was ever sold.
So are there specific properties that might make more sense than just having them do like everything? I mean, 'cause I kind of feel like there's a lot of areas that we get notified on, or people are out and about and they see. So I'm wondering if there's like some way to break it out, if there's like areas, specific areas of concern that we might want to have them monitor versus kind of having just a routine across the board, whatever they do.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's a more general discussion.
This
I
is
mean-
a particular case that I think it's justified. I mean, I hear what Steve's saying, and he and I do agree basically on that, but this is just a big development in the middle, destroys a big, beautiful area, and it's a lot of money involved in it, and we should have it monitored by experts and make sure that those it isn't encroached on from neighbors, or landscapers aren't dumping, or the trails aren't being abused and trashed and that type
So
of thing.
this is only for the Highland Ridge property?
Yes,
Yeah.
only.
But we got people walking, riding that every day or weekly. I think Holly's out there quite often. And that other, no?
Now because it's
Good point.
blocked. So wait,
Right, but they're also just on the trails. So, when they, the CM report last, I think it was last spring or something, picked up something that, over at the Oberg property that was well off the trails, where people were, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it's important. It's also, frankly, we have limited resources. And then a year or two ago, I had an interesting discussion with Ashley, and she pointed out that, sometimes the makeup of a conservation commission changes over time and people forget, and then stuff gets left behind, and, it's in some respects, it's a check on us too, to make sure that, this
Sudbury Valley is going to continue what they've been doing. Even if we turn this down, they'll continue what we've been doing, because they use our properties and the stuff we've been doing a lot, and they've been taking yes, they're a great resource to us, but they get a lot of funding through the lands and the work they do in our town. Even though we say they're doing it for us, they're getting rewarded for it in an indirect way.
Huh?
Oh, you ought to see the donations they get.
Well, that's charitable donations. That's not the same thing.
Publicity and everything else. So anyway, okay, that's my view already. So
Well, Steve is driving a hard bargain. I mean, if there weren't any monitors, I can't see a lot of problems there. Those trails that Holly rides around on, you can see the whole CR as you ride around on those things. And if somebody's starting to dump trash, we'll know about it. Today I discovered a pretty substantial ATV trail on our conservation land that was recently put in. So I'll get a sign up there in a hurry. It's off Ball.
Where is that?
But so I tend to monitor a lot of them, and I've got 2 years left in my life, so I can.
Don't say that, Walter. Where was the ATV trail, Walter?
It was Ball Hill Road, right on the Feuerstein property, coming off of that, where all that land on the right that we own, that thicket there. And it comes from that house, the big house.
Question, do you think this is a new SVT thing that they're going to start? So if in future projects, do you think this is kind of the start of a?
No, I think they've been doing this all along.
And just not charging?
No, I think I could ask them how they get paid for all these things.
I think I started it, Liz, by I was just thinking, give them CR also. We have land, we bought land, give them a CR on it, and that adds a double layer of protection, because the town, all it takes is 50% of a town meeting to change the use of land. That 2/3 vote by both branches of the legislature is nothing. They'll vote the way the town voted. So that's all it would take to build a extravagant new school or something on conservation land. But SVT has a CR on it, and their charter prohibits that. So there's no way that conservation land that SVT holds a CR on could be converted. And that was my motivation for having them do that. But now, I guess if they hold a CR, their charter also says that they've got to monitor it every year. So,
Right. And then they also say they're part of the CR. They also use that for their fundraising, and they get a lot of money
yeah,
through using that.
yeah, good point. But we don't pay them anything for,
Right. We don't pay them, but they get it indirectly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They're getting, if they weren't able to advertise, oh, we got a CR and all these properties in Berlin. We got one here. We got one here. We monitor this. We do this.
Mm.
They wouldn't be getting the funding they're getting. So
I'll vote with Steve on the number, on nothing. No, that,
Ooh.
not monitoring. SVT, I don't think make a darn bit of difference.
Yeah, I agree. Because like Liz was saying, it seems like, like it's just thinking about if they're going to try and do this on every property, it's going to add up.
Mhm.
If it becomes a trend.
It already is a trend.
Well, for them to charge us though.
Will they do it?
But I think they're already charging us.
I'm not aware of that, but maybe I've missed it. I know the agreement we voted down twice. I can remember.
Well,
Right,
let me
and the third time we did.
let me clarify. Why don't we table this for a meeting, and then I'll find out how they're getting paid for all the other stuff they're doing.
That
we
sounds
care?
good.
I care.
And is
Yeah.
this,
Yeah, I'd
and
be
is
interested
this
to
their
know.
is this their new way of doing the, is this
it
start of a
is-
trend?
I don't believe it is, Liz.
Well, I sent them a contribution that would cover most of this fee they want, so that takes care of that. We don't need to pay them this fee.
I agree.
Well, again, I thought those are apples and oranges. That they're different things.
I know.
That's a question on this. Is this because the CR for Highland Ridge required that somebody's going to monitor this? Is that why we have to do it? And then if so, why can't it be if you don't want them to, SBT to have to pay for that? For now, could be that it's up to conservation to determine who that's going to be or something like that, that it will be monitored, but to be determined. And then
Well,
It may be, this
who
may be
else
kicking.
Who else is going to monitor it?
well, no, I'm saying like put that as it's up to conservation to make sure it's monitored, and then
Well, I have an issue with that, Holly, because we don't have the manpower.
Yeah.
agree, but I'm just saying if then do we have to have this at all? That's all I'm saying. Is that part of their conservation restriction that they have it being monitored?
Well, I think it's useful to have a third party's responsibility is to keep an eye on the land.
No, I agree. I'm for that, but I just
Yeah. I'd just like to use some money for a better purpose.
It isn't a hell of a lot of money, Steve.
I know, but it adds up.
Yeah, I agree with Steve. It'll add up if it's something that.
Are you ready for a motion on this, Mr. Chairman?
No, I'm going to
I
table
am.
it. No, I'm tabling it. I want to find out some more information because you guys are basing this on, on the presumption that somehow this is going to add up when in fact I think we're already paying.
Yeah,
So
I'd be interested to know that, John. I'd like to know how this is working with other properties.
Yeah.
Should we
Yeah.
move the tables, the discussion?
I can just table as chair.
Oh, can I just ask one more question though?
Yes, please.
Could the money come from, is it the CRA? What's I forgot the taxes money that we put aside?
Oh, the CPA?
Thank you.
Preservation.
No, I think that would
No.
be too convoluted. It would be too complicated. It would take more staff time
Yep.
than it would actually be money.
Okay.
It would waste more town money than we would save.
Yeah, I think this might have kicked off when a couple meetings ago we said something about yearly monitoring, or am I getting that from somewhere else?
I think
You're
you're
getting
getting
that
that
from
from
somewhere.
Ashley.
We have properties that are yearly monitored
Yeah,
every year,
yeah,
multiple, many of them.
right. Like the field, I met SVT person there.
You know, they're being monitored because the law says they have to. They don't really need to be monitored, but they own the CR and their regulations say they have to monitor it. The only reason they have a CR is to add that double layer of protection from being sold. Frankly, that whole area up there is so destroyed with that development, ecologically speaking. It's a recreation area, the trails and the conservation land around it, the CR held land. It'll have white-tailed deer and bear running through it once in a while and stuff, but I mean, there's nothing to monitor, really.
All right.
Oh, tabled.
Moving right along.
Doesn't like our answer, so he tables it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dictator.
No, that is not
I had
true.
a speaker like you named Tom McGee. He was a tyrant.
I could aspire to be a tyrant. I'm tabling it because I feel like we need more information about how the current CMs are funded, Steve.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
We have a half a dozen of them at least, and I want to know how they're funded. Because your issue is funding, and I want to know how the rest of them are being funded. Okay? But I can just be a tyrant if you'd like. All right, we talked other old business. We talked about the Highland Ridge Trail status. I have no particular update right now about the wetland bylaw. I do hope people are talking about it. Boundless Adventures, I do have an update there. Shannon sent me an updated site plan with would show that where the line would go where we wanted it to go. So I suggested that's great. You now need to present an RDA, and I haven't received one yet. So that's the update there. We don't have any update on land acquisition. Land management, it's been windy. So there were two, I spent a couple hours or so today. There were two large trees down on the Mount Laurel Trail. So I cut those up and removed them. If people know of, like, just if you want to take a walk around any conservation trails in town, or if you hear from people, there might be other, because we had two major windstorms, so there might be some other trees down. And if you hear about them, feel free to clean them up if you want, or let me know. Or, stuff like that. We don't really have a mechanism for trail maintenance. It's something worth discussing at some point, I think.
Is now that some point?
I don't know. What are people's thoughts?
Well, other towns, what happens is that interesting citizens will form sort of a Berlin Trails Committee, and other people will get on it, and wouldn't hurt if some of these out of towners did that use it so much. And I think it'll happen. I don't see a lot of maintenance required anyway. It's I think they're in good shape. I wouldn't worry about getting into patrolling them and keeping them up or anything. Piece of limb falls from a tree, throw it off the side. Somebody will do it anyway.
Well,
in other words, don't make a big deal out of nothing.
I disagree. I mean, I think you have a different perspective, Walter, because you don't use trails anyway. But I mean, some of these things that fall on the trails can't be picked up. They're too big. There are a number of trails where there's some major erosion issues, making the trails potentially unsound. Then there are some trails where there are, just that flood out in certain times of the year, and could use some either rerouting or boardwalk work. And then, then there's also the maintenance of trail blazing. There's the monitoring to make sure there's no rogue trails. You know, the closing of that kind of thing. There's actually a fair amount. There's a fair amount.
I often walk the Brewer Brook, and I worked for a couple of Saturdays with a guy in Mosaic in the Eco Village, and we took a chainsaw and cut and moved a lot of trees that went down around there. And I just kind of bring up things as I see them to our meeting, but yeah, sometimes this was a huge rotten oak across the trail. Took a long time.
Yeah.
What if
Thanks for
when
clearing it up.
these things come up, we use our Facebook page to kind of see if we can get somebody? I mean, people don't want to join committees, but you might be able to get somebody out. If people know that something is out there, they might be willing on a Saturday morning to go out and put in 2 hours and with a chainsaw and do something.
Right.
Right. I mean, once COVID is over, it'll be a lot easier too, because it actually is more fun to do it as a group. The other thing I have to think about, or I have wondered about though, is whether what the legal liabilities are for asking people to run around the woods with a chainsaw.
I know, I was wondering that too.
I don't know. I know years ago when we had the ice storm, Paul Kelleher and I went out, and we just went out and did it. And I actually called the police, said, hey, if somebody reports a chainsaw noise in this area, it's us. And that they said, go ahead, have good. Thanks for doing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the trouble nowadays. You got to worry about liabilities and if somebody gets hurt, and so I don't know. But it would be nice to be able to just put it out there to the community, and you know, especially I know you said it's more fun to do it as a group, but sometimes people just have an hour that's free and they can do it on their own time. So
yeah,
but it would.
Yeah, I mean, and I do worry sometimes that people might get carried away too.
Well, there's that too.
So yeah,
It's like kind of a no-win.
It's sort of a quality control issue. I just don't know. I mean, it's several years ago it struck me that it might be nice to have some sort of a trail group, but I've made zero progress with it.
I think we
Tough. People are. Oh, go ahead, Holly.
Robin and I started. We were trying to form a trail group, and then we were gonna, but then I don't know what happened. But it is what it is. But I think for a lot of the equestrian people, horse people, we try to maintain the trails that we do use, and keep them clear for ourselves, because a lot of hikers, they can go, climb over something or get around it, but we try to keep them. So we just do that.
You go out with a chainsaw?
Yeah, we have. We took down some, there are some on the Berlin side of Rocky Dundee, where access to that, we took down some pretty big trees that nobody could get around. And then also on the trails that were Highland Ridge, we helped clear those out as well. But now we are staying clear until they're finished. But
yeah, and I think in terms of the trail group, I think when we were originally talking about it, then we ended up splitting out the rail trail thing. And then that's taken so long that I think things just kind of fell by the wayside with the other trail stuff.
Because, I know a lot of the horse people, they all want to volunteer whenever we get the go ahead. If like the Wendler Trail, there were people that wanted to help there, because we knew we were going to ride it. But any other trails that we had access to, I think they would totally want to help with that. So,
well, is that something? I mean, what's holding that up? Is there do you need to do they have properties in mind that they want to work on, or?
Well, I think we know the trails that we ride. We know them and we keep them clear. And with the permission of a lot of the private landowners that we ride through, it's in their best interest too, because they like the fact that these trails can stay open because they use them. So so a lot of the trails around where I am, they're pretty clear. But then there's other trails that we don't really get to that often that, maybe could need help. And then, because I know it from Mount Pesk, there's only like 2 people that ride there. And they try to keep those trails open that they use to ride, but they don't use half of the side of it. They only use like one part of the trails that they use. So that doesn't get a lot of.
Sometimes it'd be interesting to get a couple of kids with clipboards and stay at the entrances and see what percentage of people use Mount Pisgah, and it's 3 or 4 entrances are from Berlin, and how many from out of town. And Berlin, that area's become quite a regional recreation,
Yeah.
I would say, based on the vehicles that I see around there. And those trails are pretty darn worn down. They're better than what you see in Mount Monadnock and many state parks. That trails are pretty good.
They're beautiful there. It's just unfortunate that a lot of people don't get to ride there. Like I would love to be able to ride over there, but for now I don't know a safe way to get from our house to there. I'm trying to figure that out, but yeah, it's beautiful. But I know people that abut that have horses, but they told me only a few people ride through there.
Moving right along.
Well, then that's it then.
So I guess the,
we still have no resolution about trails.
Louise is often on Facebook on Berlin Neighbors Connect, and I could see people saying there's a tree down on that perhaps.
Well, that's the thing, but like John said, it is a concern, a liability, potentially a concern
Yeah, then what
about
happens?
liability,
Yeah.
you know, by asking people to do it. So I
Yeah,
don't know,
I mean,
maybe it's one of those don't ask, don't tell kind of things.
well, yes. I mean, so Holly, who's muted herself again, but so when I was listening to her, it occurred to me that you know, her and her fellow horse riders, that's great what they're doing, you know, but then again, they're just, you know, it doesn't generalize to all trails, just to the trails that the horse riders use.
Right. Well, like there's, for instance, there's like what the Wendler property opened up to us is now we can safely ride to 40 Caves. And so a lot of horse people around us are all excited. They love that trail. I think it's amazing. I love it too. But some of the trails to get into 40 Caves, once you get over the river, they're beautiful. But for horse people, we have no way to get over there. But I think sometimes if that's why I kind of wanted to be part of Conservation Commission is because of the fact that, you know, I'm very interested in the trail system and then linking them up and making, you know, a nice network of trails that people can connect with. But for people who hike and also for horses, because it is amazing the land that we have here. It's just hard to access some pieces of the lands to link them together. But
Right.
anyway,
Yeah, I mean, that's good. But my point being that the horse people are sort of doing their horse people thing.
I know we would also help the hiking trails, right? So, but unfortunately, some of those trails we can't access, so therefore we don't get in there to help. Let's say, for instance, SVT's property off of Steen's property, the Clover Hill farm. We wanted to ride through there, but part of it is impossible for us to get through. So we asked the people who lease Steen's land if we could ride through there, and she's like, "Yeah, sure," to kind of go through the farm itself instead of going around it.
Right.
And if, let's say, more of us know of that, then these other trails we would obviously want to keep clear for us, and that would benefit everybody else as well. That makes sense.
So is there a reason why they just haven't gone in and cleared it?
Oh no, I mean, so the trail that they SVT made goes up and over the hill where the horses are turned out, but there's an electric fence, so there's literally only maybe 2 feet for somebody to walk. But if you wanted to ride your horse through there, it's kind of dangerous because if the electric fence is on, there's not much room. But for one person, like, to go around. But the trail pretty much on her property, there's like that little indoor ring and there's a little road. So you can just ride through there, but that's not part of the trail. But she said, oh yeah, you can just use that and to get through rather than have to go up over the hill and come down that piece. But yeah, the rest of it is pretty nice. So, because then that
I-
leads up kind of to Bolton's Rocky Dundee, which their trails are amazing.
At any rate, I mean, I still left with the same problem, which is it's sort of catch as can do. And I just don't have a good solution for it. And maybe I won't. I'll just drop it. Because the stuff that on the Wendler or Mount Laurel Trail, it was actually somebody from Bolton talked to Rebecca Longval, the conservation agent in Bolton, about the property in Berlin, and she spoke with Dan Stimson, who then emailed me. So it's just kind of convoluted, and the horse people had just started going around the pine. Anyway, I just don't know if there's a good solution, and the legal stuff bothers me too.
Yeah.
But that's all I have for today. Does anybody else have anything else?
Nope,
Nope.
thanks. Move to adjourn?
Second, third, and fourth.
Okay, all those in favor, I roll call. Liz,
Aye.
John, aye, Louise,
Aye.
Robin,
Aye.
Walter, Steve.
Aye.
Great. Adjourned at 8:50.